Hello and welcome to Cage Fighting. It's your main man Andy Gillard here. Hope everyone's doing well in the world right now.
Hello everybody, Matt Guy here. Hope everybody's enjoying the nicer warm weather.
Wagwan. Now we can say that again. Hello everyone.
Were we not allowed to say Wagwan?
Well, when was the last time it was said other than Moon Knight 2 weeks ago?
Fair point, yeah. It's gone the way of the dodo a little bit, hasn't it, that one?
It's a bit like the what's up and all that kind of bollocks from the early late 90s. So if Marvel are bringing Wagwan back, then who knows what's next?
That's fair. That is fair. Have you had a good Easter weekend, gents?
It's been all right. It's been nice weather. I haven't indulged in lots of chocolate, but I had a Sunday dinner today that would be used as a method of torture to Ethiopian kids because it was so huge. I couldn't eat it all. It was ridiculous. It was tasty as hell. And I know, Stu, in the recess of your mind, you're going, well, how can you have a nice veggie Sunday dinner? Well, let me tell you, my friend, you can. It was really, really tasty. It was very good.
I didn't actually have that thought cross my mind. It looked like a normal dinner. It looked like something you'd get like Christmas or Thanksgiving for our American friends. That's what it looked like. It didn't look veggie at all. So
it was one of 3 event dinners in my wife's family's household. Easter, Christmas, and New Year is an event dinner. Event dinner means there'll be more than one type of stuffing and or more than one type of meat. Or in my case, veggie alternative.
I didn't realise there was more than one kind of stuffing anyway, to be honest.
Oh, mate.
Why do you need more than one kind?
We're not playing games here, pal.
Yeah, even I know that.
It just seems needless. What was the meat substitute then, if not?
So I had corn sausages wrapped in Richmond bacon as my pigs in blankets, and then I had the brand is called This Isn't, so it's This Isn't chicken pieces. So I had that as my secondary meat. Well, that was my first meat, and then I had it with so much bread sauce on it. It looked like my plate was covered in essentially snow. There was that much bread sauce all over my food, which I absolutely love. Oh, getting hungry thinking about it.
Stu, have you eaten a horse today? What's your Easter weekend treat?
I just did nothing at all. There was no event dinners on Easter for me, and because Mum was busy, so I'm not going to do a Sunday dinner, am I? Let's be honest. So, so I had a sweet chili chicken pizza instead.
That sounds better to me, to be honest. Never been one for a roast dinner.
Oh, of course not. If I'm at Mum's on a Sunday, I'd fully expect a roast dinner. Otherwise, there's no point going. It's the rules of the game. But there's no way on earth I'm even going to attempt that. It just why would you? Too much fuss. So,
can you cook, Stu? You strike me as someone who we would laugh at, say, "Oh, he can't cook," but I bet you can cook.
I can if I don't enjoy cooking. It's not.
Okay, fair enough.
It's not a passion. I'll do it to live, but I'll do it with flair, of course. But yeah, it's one of the things. Depends how lazy. I mean, in today, whacking a pizza on at half time in the FA Cup semi final, ideal. Not going to be standing in the kitchen pissing about when there's football to watch. So yeah, that was the way of the day. I mean, I had a chocolate bunny, so that was as far as I went with the old Easter situation. So yeah, it was relatively calm. Short weather, obviously.
Obviously. Ooh, yeah. It's fucking red hot out there, to be fair. Oh, right, anyway, let's get some filmy stuff going. We'll start off with some news. It's been a while since we've done one of these, so quickly touch on the Oscars. Easy one first off. Coda was the big winner. Was it a worthy winner? Are you happy with it? There seems to have been a little bit of a backlash against it, but it feels unnecessary because it's not the big shiny film, maybe, is why. Stu, I know you've seen Coda, haven't you? So what are your immediate thoughts on that one?
I was amazed, really.
Mm.
I mean, I watched it first, I think, out of all of us, and last year, and because I even went back to just double check if I'd even mentioned it on the question cast that we did straight after I watched it, and I don't think I even did.
Mm.
It was just like one of them things. Oh, that was nice. That was a nice, heartwarming film with some obviously great performances in it, but I didn't think it stood out as the best film of the year. Not when you had Pig and Sound of Metal was better as a deaf film than Coda was for me, but it's nice in a way that me especially slagged that event off for being so wanky and up its own arse all the time. That it actually gives a feel good, nice film an award and recognition where you really wouldn't get that otherwise. And it wasn't one of them where, okay, yeah, it's a deaf film, it's portraying something that's a bit niche and whatever. Yeah, it obviously is a bit niche, but it's not doing it for the sake of it. It's integral to the story. And it was a really, really just nice film. And what my one of my Twitter friends pointed out to me when he watched that Fancast episode on the Danny Dyer Spectacular Football Factory with our friend Nate, how the dad looks very much like Nate, if just a bit older. So I had to go back and capture a still image of that and send it to him the other day. So yeah, not amazed that it won because I thought there were better films that qualified for it, but I'm really pleased that something like this actually did win for a change.
Matt, do you think there's an argument that it might be everybody's second favourite, but everybody's got a complete different first favourite, so it gets through on the merit of not being hated almost?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the nominees, like, this wouldn't have been the bookies' favourite. I think King Richard was a bookies' favourite going into it. But then you had all sorts here that could have won for all variety of reasons. Belfast, I was convinced Belfast would win just because of kind of the critical acclaim that had come out from it, but then you could have easily have thought that King Richard would have won as well, and then Licorice Pizza being that, not art house, but that kind of wanky film that people like, who enjoy these kind of events. Sorry, Andy. And then like Power of the Dog, or even if they wanted something bombastic, something like West Side Story. I think Coda was a bit left field. Not that there's anything wrong with left field, but I think like it would have been a bit of an anticlimax in reality if you were there. Like, I think if of all of the things it could have been, it'd be like, I don't know, what was that FA Cup final when it was like Wigan and it was two like really crap teams in the FA Cup final. It just ended up being like a proper anticlimax. But it's one of those things, really. I don't take these. I don't. They don't mean a lot to me, the awards, if I'm perfectly honest. So it was by the by. I'm just glad it wasn't June.
Yeah, same. Obviously, the other piece of news that came out was the Will Smith assault. This has led now to numerous production companies pausing on their work with Smith, including Netflix and also Paramount, who've paused the production of Bad Boys 4, which after seeing the last Bad Boys, I'm not too disappointed on them doing that. Smith has now quit the Academy. The Academy have also banned Smith from any of their events for the next 10 years, but they're not going to be taking the gong off him. So 2 questions. Did the Academy handle it correctly? And how much longer do you think this will actually impact on Smith's career, Matt?
Number one, to allow him to have like sat down, receive an award, and then give a faux apology was pretty awful. But at the same time, I don't know what, are they going to take him out kicking and screaming like when Eric Bischoff was thrown in a rubbish bin by John Cena? Like, are they going to do that? No, they're not. Obviously, they're not. So I don't know what more really they could have done other than like asked him politely to leave. And if he doesn't go, do you create more of a stink that's already what's going on? Do you know what I mean? In terms of impacting his career, no, I don't think it will, because my second Bischoff mention within a few seconds, controversy causes cash or creates cash. Like, it will get blown under the carpet within maybe a year tops when he does a time special or appears on Oprah or does something, and they'll have an expose about his and Jada's relationship, and the narrative will be turned around again. Like, no publicity is bad publicity unless you finger a kid. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just the way it is in Hollywood. Do you know what I mean? Like, he'll turn it around because he is. If one thing that Will Smith does, he knows how to be a media magnet, and he'll get turned around, and then it will be the redemption story. Like, it's almost win-win for him, I think.
It is. Yeah, I mean, the Academy and Hollywood in general protects its own, and there is no one more Hollywood than Will Smith. So I completely agree with everything you said. Stu, anything to add? Are you in a disagreement, or do you think that it was right the way it went down?
You talk about fingering kids. I mean, the amount of paedophiles that haven't had anything took off them at all, Oscar-wise, and their credits are still there. Nothing happens to them. People who take advantage of women, still there. No problem whatsoever there. But a bloke goes up there and, yeah, fair enough. He's assaulted someone on live TV. But he apologised. The guy who he assaulted didn't press charges. End of story. It's massive woke bollocks gone mad. I mean, you look at the other something similar to what happened here. What I was thinking of earlier, the Jarvis Cocker and Michael Jackson thing. He went up there, humiliated him. Did he get banned from the Brits forever? No, of course he did. He got told off. It was a bit of a joke. Everyone was pissed. Move on. That's all that this needed to do. But by doing all this, it's just going to bring more. Well, like Matt said, it's more of a redemption story because they're all falling over themselves trying to be who's the most righteous and, we can't have him protecting our brand and all this kind of nonsense. And what's going to happen? Normal people are going to go and watch the next Will Smith film more than anything else. So they're going to lose out. And it's just complete nonsense as per usual, but it's hardly a surprise anymore, is it?
Very true. Matt, this one's going to be right up your street. The Crow remake, reboot, reimagining. It's got a director now, and it has also got its lead actor. So Bill Skarsgård is going to be the titular character, and Rupert Sanders is going to be directing a Zach Bravlin script. So Bravlin, you'll know, he did the script on King Richard. Skarsgård, obviously, Pennywise the Clown. Sanders is a British director known for Snow White and the Huntsman and the English language remake of Ghost in the Shell. I haven't seen either of those, so I can't really say much about it. Stu, what do you think to this one?
I like Ghost in the Shell, obviously, other than the the whitewashing debate. But I don't know, it was a decent film for using the source material that they had. So I'm more encouraged now knowing that it's him and that he's worked on something that was so beloved and adapted it to something else. And for me, it worked. I know a lot of people were pissed off in different ways, but from that to going from animated to live action, this is, well, who really knows what it is? But he has got form with doing something with a beloved franchise, so I'm more confident now knowing this part than I was before. But it's the same thing. Do we really need it? No. But it's old, however much we can kind of say it's not. It's old enough now to be brought back.
Yeah, that's true. Matt, you've said on this podcast several times that you're a big fan of the original Crow. Are you happy they're remaking it? Should it be left alone? What are your thoughts here?
I think that we need a palate cleanser in what is essentially at least 2, if not 2.5 awful attempts at sequels of The Crow. City of Angels is bad, but it's good because it's bad. Whereas the other 2 following that are just downright awful. I think with the right, especially now with the Batman, if tonally it was anywhere near like that, it could be excellent. It could really, really be fantastic if they went down a darker route and as they did with the Batman. So, yeah, I'm always going to look forward to it. I think that from a casting point of view, knowing that Skarsgård was Pennywise, the only thing that makes me think like because that's what you think of him as now for life. He'll always be Pennywise now. Is that Eric Draven was always meant to be this kind of cool guitar wielding goth sex icon in his world, and I don't know if Skarsgård will pull that off. But we wait to see. But no, definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, same. The long-tated Bee Gees project has finally nailed its director. Originally, Kenneth Branagh was due to direct, but because of Belfast, he found his free time at a premium for obvious reasons. So they've got John Carney who steps in. Carney is best known for Once and Sing Street, which are two Irish independent musical films. Huge fan of both of those movies. They are absolutely excellent. Matt, are you a Bee Gees fan, first off?
I wouldn't go as far as to say I'm a fan. However, I wouldn't turn them off if Spotify somehow put it onto my algorithm. The more disco stuff of theirs that I do really enjoy, because I really like disco in general. Yeah, absolutely fine with the Bee Gees.
Would you be interested in a biopic? I don't know a lot about their story, to be perfectly honest, but is this something...
I'd any kind of musical biopic I'm probably going to watch anyway. This one especially, like this would be a cinema one for me. Do you know what I mean? Like Elvis will be the Elvis one will be a day one.
Yeah,
this might be a week. This will be a week one.
Stu, I get the impression you probably love a bit of the Brothers Gibb.
Obviously,
of course.
It's which way is this going to go? Is it going to be more Bohemian Rhapsody, or is it going to be more? Is it going to be more Rocket Man? Who knows at this point? But yeah, same. I mean, it's almost tragic. I don't know how deep they're going to go into it, and how deep is the love.
I was convinced you were about to start reading off song titles. As soon as tragic came out your mouth, I was like, hold on.
That wasn't intended whatsoever. It's just Bee Gees are within us all, obviously. Yeah, so there's a darker tale there than people realise. So I'll be interested which way they go with it, really, because it's if you're putting a Bee Gees biopic up there, people are going to expect the disco and the happiness and the fun times rather than a bit of beer noir. So
yeah,
interesting.
Finally, a bit of sad news. Walter Bruce Willis is calling time on his acting career, making his on-screen debut 40 years ago, originally as a background artist in The Verdict. Willis went on to score major roles in Moonlight, in Die Hard, Pulp Fiction, Friends, The Sixth Sense, The Expendables, and of course, the whole franchise of Die Hard that just went on and on. All before a lean spell or so over the last decade of direct-to-DVD, which has left Willis the butt of many a joke. Sadly, Willis has been given a diagnosis of aphasia, which is a disorder that inhibits language, expression, and comprehension. So there's a lot of negative stories out there about Bruce Willis, and I would fully recommend the podcast Hayleywood to anyone. It's a brilliant story about the maniacal Hollywood superstar. It doesn't feel right to discuss those right now. So Bruce Willis, favourite film, which isn't Die Hard, because Die Hard's probably everybody's favourite, isn't it? Let's be honest. So, Stu, what's your favourite non-Die Hard Willis performance or film?
This is actually really hard to do. So they're all like there's Die Hard up there is obviously on its own, and Die Hard 2 on its own pedestal of excellence. But then I'd probably say Unbreakable. I
love Unbreakable. I think it's a proper underrated film.
More than Sixth Sense, more than Armageddon, more than Fifth Element, and yeah, and probably Sin City as well. It probably is. It probably is Unbreakable. Unbreakable's the one that I've probably seen more of, and I've seen more times just because I love that film.
Matt, what's your favourite non-Die Hard?
It was Unbreakable as well, just because that like just really hits for my youth. That film, it really there's something about it that just was just so. I just look back on the films of like the 90s that. And then with everything with Split and Glass as well, because I really enjoyed Split. I don't know. Like, I think no pun intended, split. The opinion of the general public, but I really enjoyed it. And Glass, to be fair, and so for him to be part of that legacy, just adds to how good Unbreakable was. That however many years on, 20, 15, 20 years on, that project can then be come back to because of the legacy of the film.
Yeah. Unbreakable, I'd got as an honourable mention because I think that Sixth Sense always gets lauded. And Sixth Sense is a great film, can't knock it, but I do think Unbreakable is a real underrated gem. But the one for me is Pulp Fiction. Like, I'm a big fan of Tarantino anyway, and Pulp Fiction I think is just it's one of the masterpieces of the 1990s. And I feel like the 90s probably isn't the greatest decade of cinema, but Pulp Fiction is right up there.
I think with that, it's more the Bruce Willis's performance in Pulp Fiction. I think he's overshadowed by other people in Pulp Fiction, which I think Pulp Fiction is a better film than Unbreakable. But from a Bruce Willis point of view, I would say that if you're talking performance alone, that's why Unbreakable tops it for me.
Yeah, that's why I don't mention it as well. Exactly
that's fair. I think when the dust has settled on Willis's career, we'll do one of his on a picture pod. I really want you both to watch a film called I think it's Colour of Night. I think it is. It's fucking bonkers. It's a proper mad, so bad it's good film. I think you'll both love it. So I think we'll revisit one maybe later in the summer. We'll do a Willis film in tribute to his career. So that is all of the news done. Matthew, have we had any listener questions in?
We have indeed. So, kicking it straight off with Mr. Dolan, Ash Dolan, is the TV license an outdated process? Should there be a new method in place? If so, what? So, before Stu goes, I know Stu's going to have passionate feelings about the TV license. So, Andy, talk to me about the TV license. A lot of the BBC doesn't get any ad revenue per se, and it does pump out a lot of good drama content and stuff like that. But are you getting enough bang for your buck out of the TV license, do you think?
Probably not. I don't really watch a lot of BBC stuff, to be perfectly honest. But if I'm ever going to watch any British produced anything, it's going to be something off BBC. I do think BBC is the best of a very bad bunch. But I do think there needs to be a broadcaster out there who is not funded by commercials, because obviously if you have commercial interests, you're not able to give a proper, unbiased, balanced opinion on something. And I know there's a lot of arguments about the left wing and the right wing, and is the BBC the mouthpiece for the government, or should they hold them to accountability? But I think the one good thing about the BBC's balanced reporting is the fact that people on the right wing think it's left wing propaganda, the people on the left wing think it's right wing propaganda. So actually, it's probably just about doing its job right. And I do think there needs to be something like that. I do like the fact that you can have an independent voice, or as close to independent as you can get, with something like BBC Two, which does put a lot of odd shit out there that you probably wouldn't find on commercial TV, because no one's going to be watching some kind of Slovakian film at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday night. I like the fact that it does have that more than just commercial interests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well put. Stu, from your point of view, and do you use it to its full capacity? iPlayer, any of the radio stations, that kind of stuff. So with that in mind, what's your view on the TV license?
I've gone kind of backwards and forwards with it. I think that everything Andy said is spot on, because it is unique and it has got respect worldwide. I mean, you have got BBC Worldwide as well, which I presume has got adverts, because how else would they fund that? And BBC America as well. But there's so much bollocks on there as well that half of it could be just shelved. Just gut half of it away, because who watches this shit? There's a lot of things there that they make for, and must be people in the thousands at most in the middle of the day. This is the whole let's wait till the old people die thing again, because a lot of it is just made for them to watch in the daytime when they're sitting in the chair because they can't do anything else. And yeah, they did a lot of good educational things, but there's so many. I mean, you don't have to look in. I mean, it's all out there for everyone to look at anyway. You look at where the money actually goes, and there's middle management, and it's all the NHS where it's all there's more managers than people who actually do proper things, and it's like everything else in this kind of messed up country where it's a great idea, it could be incredible, but it's so kind of pulled back down to earth by unnecessary nonsense and bollocks that it's ruined, and you end up with a situation where when what do I watch on BBC? Match of the Day every week. Is that worth? I mean, I'd pay £5 a month anyway to watch Match of the Day, Doctor Who, the BBC dramas that they put out because they're always pretty much always excellent, and maybe WM and Five Live sometimes. But for me, that's it. But for other people, that'll be the complete opposite things. They will watch Country File and all this kind of weird stuff, and no one else is going to sit there in a field filming a bush and talk about it for weeks on end because the audience is not there. But so from that point of view, it does obviously it's a public service, as is in the title. But it could be half the price and half of this stuff just gone because no one needs it. I mean, they do things like the Slovakian films that Andy watches at 3:00. They're there for certain kind of people. But you got to remember, things like 24 premiered on BBC Two. No one else picked that up. So they do take risks sometimes. I mean, yeah, that was a long time ago, but even so, when things are good and they take risks and it comes off, yeah, it might get bought out by Sky or Channel 4 or whatever later. I mean, obviously the Bake Off got bought out by Channel 4, but in theory, it's a good thing, but it needs seriously looking at. And halving the price.
Fair. I think that's fair. I think, do you want Premier League football on ITV? No, you don't. And B, when it comes down to any football coverage, everyone always says about how the BBC is better. I don't care what anybody says. That their telly, they'll have boxing on, they'll have tennis on. They do I think when you look at what the BBC actually gives you as a product overall, in terms of how much of the market and how much of the people it reaches, I think it's one of those things where there's a lot worse that we spend our taxpayers' money on than the BBC and the license fee. Personally, there's a lot worse that should be under a lot more scrutiny than the license fee. Personally, but that's my take on it. So Matt Cunnington, who in your opinion is the most overrated director? Andy?
Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Fucking awful. Just terrible.
Stu.
Tim Burton's the obvious one, ain't it? Because he's beloved for 4 films that were a long time ago now. And it's hard to even argue with this, which I don't like. Rather, off the top of my head, I'm going to have to bow down to it. Overrated wise, because half of his films are absolutely dire.
Where does M. Night Shyamalan fall into this category for you?
I don't think he's rated anymore, so I don't think he counts.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
Andrew Wright with an absolute corker. Which party from a film would you happily pay the cost of a fixed penalty notice in order to attend?
Nice.
The one in Hangover.
I was absolutely adamant you were going to pick the one from oh Christ, what was that awful, really early Nick Cage film we watched?
Fucking hell. Not California Girls. What was it? Stu, the one you loved that was dire.
Valley Girl.
Valley Girl, that's it.
Yeah, the party from Valley Girl.
That was just a house party there, that one. No.
So you can go hang around in a toilet.
In the bathroom, in the steaming up the frosted glass.
Christ, yeah, that was the one. For me, I would go for a house party. I want to be at the party from Superbad.
I
I'd love
thought
that
that
film.
as well.
Yeah, that'd just be
Yeah,
great
I
fun.
thought-
Yeah.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, that would be one for me. Or the only if we had to go like event, probably the one from Ace Ventura where he like hops over the shark tank.
Yeah,
We've caught the
brilliant.
cocks. David Evans, directors who come out and say Marvel is ruining cinema. If they truly believe this, should they be discouraging casting actors who are already prominent in the MCU in their projects to show how being part of Marvel should limit their careers? What do you think to that kind of half question, half statement? Should, if Marvel is as bad as people say it is, why are MCU actors being cast in other things? Take MCU out of it and use Garfield, for example, with Tick Tick Boom. I know he wasn't Garfield. I know Garfield existed before Spider-Man existed, but is there a point there? Actually, is this a bit of hypocrisy from the baiting masses about Marvel ruining cinema?
I think there's an element of like star theory, though, isn't that? If someone's been in a Marvel film, you will want them in your movie just because they've got that element of name recognition. And it's not like good actors haven't done bad films. Like Michael Caine always would joke about the house that Jaws 4 built. Like he did that just because he got paid for it. So, no, I think actors should be in charge of their careers and directors should be in charge of their movies, and never the twain shall meet, sort of thing. A director's not going to tell an actor what they should and shouldn't be doing, because it may impact on their career. That's their choice to make or not make. It may be.
Stu, any comments on that?
It's always directors who've never done a Marvel film, eh? And there's reasons for that. If they don't fit the Marvel brief and they don't want to do what they're told, which is, to be honest, that's the way it is. Why do they care? Whether they care that they can't play the game? If they don't like Marvel films, then why get so worked up about it?
True.
On the other point of view, if they really want to do it, then surely they'll be doing the absolute must and the most in their kind of what should I say? The most in their wheelhouse of their power, their skill set to put themselves forward and say, oh yeah, I want to do Ant-Man 4 or whatever nonsense that comes up next. But it seems a bit so grapes with a lot of these things.
I think there's an element of Marvel changing the way studios work. I think it's more to do with the studio structure than it is to do with the on-screen side of things. So, like Marvel and DC films have been both quite notorious for being quite restrictive to what their directors do within the confines of the world, which is why you've seen the likes of Scorsese go to make films on Netflix, which would never have happened, 5, 10, 15 years ago. So I think that's the problem that directors are having, what creatives are having with Marvel, is because the success that they've had is at the expense of creativity.
Last question then from Tara. If you had to choose a film franchise to get rid of, what would it be and why? Stu, wave that magic wand.
To get rid of this is probably something like Twilight, because I don't care, and it wouldn't affect me. It wouldn't affect me in the slightest, and it'd piss a lot of people off. So yeah, Twilight.
Fair, Andy.
Oh, I'm torn because I would like to get rid of everything that Zack Snyder's done in the DC universe and start again. But if we got rid of Harry Potter, we'd probably get rid of Twilight as well. So I think I'd get rid of Harry Potter because I don't think it's really given us many great movies. Sorry, Matt.
What an absolute shambles that answer is.
I think I'd get rid of Harry Potter. Sorry.
What an absolute shambles. Never mind. We can't all be right all the time, Andy. I respect your opinion massively, but we can't hit a home run every pitch. You know what I mean? Thank you very much for your questions, everybody. Answer them we shall on the Twitter. And if you have anything interesting that you want answering, let us know, and ask a friend as well. It would be really, really helpful if we can get some new eyes and ears on the podcast. Get a friend to ask a question as well. If you would be ever so kind, that would be grateful.
Lovely, thank you very much. Hot take corner then. So, does watching a film in a cinema colour your opinion of the movie? There is a theory about watching a film, depending on which side of the cinema you're on. You may watch a movie with a more emotional brain, or you may watch it looking at the more technical aspects of it. Is that true? Does seeing a comedy with a full audience make the comedy funnier to you? Because you're more than likely to laugh, where if you're on your own, you weren't going to. A scare is bigger because there's an audience there. Matt, how does watching a film in a cinema affect you?
Oh, see, I never understood the question like that. So this is more interesting actually. I would say having people around me lessens the desired effect of a film. If I'm being honest with you, I love the technical side of it. So I love seeing a screen on a massive screen, crisp as fuck audio, and it being that immersive experience. But when I'm hearing other people laughing, potentially at things I don't find funny, or I'm hearing people jumping and making a scene at a scary bit in a film that I saw, does pull me out of that immersion a little bit. I want my cake and eat it when it comes to the cinema. I want to be in the cinema, but I want to be on my own, essentially. I think the negative side is more comedy than in scary films, for example, because there might be something that I just, humor is of course really subjective. So there'll be something really silly, like something on Rick and Morty that I watched last night that I laughed hard at, and Sam was completely silent at. Now, if loads of people were doing that in a cinema and I didn't laugh, I'd be thinking to myself, "Oh, what have I missed here? Am I enjoying this as much as I thought I was?" Kind of thing. So, yeah, I think watching it in a cinema definitely gives it a different experience for me in terms of my enjoyment. Not necessarily in a bad way, but I think if there's I know for a fact that I'd rather watch a Marvel film 3 weeks later than on the day, because I'll just be annoyed about everybody else's reaction to it. And that pretty much, that sums it up for me.
Yeah. Stu, what do you think?
Generally, doesn't bother me at all if I watch it in the cinema or I watch it at home. But things like that, where the way people reacted to Spider-Man, obviously we didn't have a whooping and a hollering screening, thank God.
Wasn't far off though.
No, but
that was just you, Stu.
Yeah, exactly. But it was relevant to the funny parts and the kind of moments where we all kind of had the same thing. No one was jumping up and down like twats, was they? So that'll be a memory of watching that film. So when I watch that again, whenever that is, I'll probably remember that. But at the same time, like we talked about earlier, when I watched Coda last year, I watched that on my own. Like I do most films, I watch on my own anyway. Even when we go to the cinema, I watch them on my own because I go in the daytime or at night, because who wants to go and watch these things? I can see why it would have an effect, but for me personally, it doesn't bother me at all. The only time it would is if you get people messing about and ruining the experience for you, but that's not really the film, is it? That's the kind of thing altogether. If that then plays into when you watch it again, or you kind of have these, you associate it with a bad time, like you and the babies and stuff, then maybe, but not for me. For me, it doesn't really matter at all.
Last week I went to see Sonic 2, and it was like 8 o'clock on a Thursday night, the last showing of the day, and I thought, okay, there'll be kids, but there won't be any young kids because it's late and they'll be getting out after 10, so it won't be too bad. Got to the cinema, I saw a family in there, and there was like this little, like, I'm assuming 3-4-year-old kid running around in the foyer being an annoying little cunt. So I texted you, Stu, and said, right, I'm going to use your card to block out this seat because I know these are going to be in our screening. And Actually, when I got to the till, because Katie was buying some popcorn, I just said to the person serving, "Can we just change our seats?" Actually, because I thought I don't want to be near them. And it turns out they would have been sat right next to us. And this little kid was running around up and down the stairs throughout the whole film. I managed to sort of block him out because he was behind me, and it's quite a loud film for most of it, so it was okay. That's the problem I often have with a film, is that I'm constantly there thinking about other people ruining the experience for me. Much like Matt, I want to see a film. I'd like to be in a cinema. I want to be there on my own though, because I want to watch a film on the biggest screen possible to really enjoy it. And other people just always take that away from me, and that's the problem. Like, as soon as it gets to the point where they've got rid of, or they give you the choice between watching a new film at home or a new film in the cinema, I probably wouldn't go to the cinema because I won't have to then deal with other people potentially spoiling my enjoyment of a movie.
But we have got to say how utterly cursed you are with these things as well. How
It seems it, doesn't it?
no one else has these kind of problems almost, every other time at this rate.
It does seem to be quite a regular occurrence, doesn't it? It's ridiculous.
It's you and my sister who she seems to be the one, like, she's had things where they'll she went to one and what is it, that Screen X nonsense, and
Yeah.
they were showing a different film on the side of the wall rather than that was supposed to be in the 3 parts. So she obviously went and complained when they were doing the building work, and the then put the soundproofing in. You could hear the film in the next screen through the wall, and she was watching something like really quiet and really like proper thoughtful, and it just completely ruined it. So every it's almost like every other time she goes, she has to go and complain about something at the end as well. Whereas me, hardly ever. I'd say 99% of the time I have no issues whatsoever. Maybe I'm just kind of that passive and I don't care, and I'm so engrossed in the film I don't notice these things. But some people do seem to attract these kind of fiends more than others.
Yeah, I seem to. I don't know if I'm just like quite highly attuned to noises around me. So we could probably be in the same screen. You won't notice a thing, and I'll be ready to murder somebody. I get that's probably the way it's going to work. So we'll move on to the non-film question, which is you this week, Stu.
Yeah, so I know this is kind of the worst possible question coming from me of all people, but when you look at that picture of Bieber that came out after the Oscars week, and you think, well, you obviously just look ridiculous, don't you? And that outfit is probably 4 times too big for him,
Mm-hmm.
and it's probably worth about 20 grand. You think, well, what is the point in this nonsense? What is the point in high fashion? Because it's, other than to show off, nothing ever looks good. Anyway, ever. Nothing ever looks good. It's always overpriced. And obviously, other than to make money, but surely you're putting your name to something that's a bit mental and ridiculous. I mean, why would you do it? So what is the point of high fashion?
It's a good question. So, like, for context, that picture that you're talking about, it's Justin Bieber is wearing what looks like a 4-year-old wearing his dad's suit and a pair of Doc Martens. Like, it looks so oversized and ridiculous and ugly. Like, you don't look at him and think, "Oh fuck, I'd love a suit like that." You just don't. Whereas if you see someone go to, on the red carpet and they're wearing like a well-fitting suit, you think, okay, I could buy one of those myself. Like, you look at that and you can see something about it. But when you see the ones who do these big, flashy, over the top, you see dresses where, like, I don't know, a woman might be made up to look like a peacock or something. And it's so far out of the realms of possibility. You just think, well, you're not going to see someone walking down the street, or you're not going to see someone in a bar wearing something like that. So I don't understand it. I mean, maybe it gets people's eyes onto, I don't know who made that suit, for example, but if it was Gucci, for example, maybe you would then look at Gucci stuff. So it's just an advertisement for the company. But at no point would I ever look at that and think, that's, high fashion, that's what everyone should be looking like. That makes me think that anyone who shops there is probably a twat.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that, but good old Robert Pattinson wore an oversized suit for the Batman premiere, and oversized suits are sadly in at the minute. That being said, I mean, I'm not the best person to comment on this because it took me about 10 years after they became fashionable for me to own anything remotely close to a pair of chinos. And I don't own them now. I just own a pair of chino shorts because I'm allowed to wear them at work, or at least before the dress code stopped being a thing. So high fashion and me. I mean, I'm not close to low fashion. I'm not part of fashion. So it means really nothing from that point of view. But in terms of like the point of it, I guess, to stay relevant, to stay people talking about you. You know, people go mad for this red carpet stuff, and I do think that outside of the four walls of this podcast and the stuff that I enjoy, that I really enjoy, there's a whole world out of there of stuff that I just don't understand, and massive things that I just don't get. And I'll just put it down to one of these things that, like, it's never gonna. If this was a Venn diagram, we're never going to be in the same. You know, we're never going to touch. So let people have their weird stuff. I'll let them people be out. Let me have my weird stuff, and we'll all just die happy together.
That's fair. So next question is, what have you been watching lately, Stu?
Well, since you mentioned it first, we'll talk about it. Sonic 2. Just wonderful. Again, it's quite shocking how a character that's been kind of widely ridiculed for the last 20 odd years for mediocre games, when has suddenly from nowhere turned into after what we talked about with the original Sonic as well, was that a massive marketing point where they deliberately messed up his character design, so it had to be redesigned within 6 months, and they managed to do it. Who cares really now? But after all that, I don't think anyone expected it to be any good at all. And the fact that it was just a sleeper hit, it was a massive hit for everyone of all ages, if they like games or not. So it turned into this generation's Shrek, really. And Sonic 2 is very much of the same, but with Tails and Knuckles, which is even better. And I came out and I was looking to see if they do a Knuckles figure to match up with my Sonic and Tails 8-bit models on my on the wall there. I just loved it. It was great.
Yeah.
Other than that, from the fun to the bad, which is the Jimmy Savile documentary on Netflix, which, I mean, he put his tail in many places where it shouldn't have gone. But I thought it was really, for us who know the story, I think it was well done in the fact that they showed the good air quote side of him and what he did, which, fair play, he did seem to have done a lot for people. But in the second part, obviously, the demons were there, and it's just absolutely incredible how he got away with it for so long in plain sight with so many people knowing, and no one said a thing. Yeah, really well made. And the other one, the other film, which again bring it back to Funtown, was again a little Netflix film, Metal Lords, which is have you seen it, Emma?
I haven't seen it. I've seen the trailer for it, and it's on mine and Sam's watch list when we get 5 minutes together to watch something. I don't know if it looks like it should tick all the boxes, but there's something in the back of my mind saying it's going to be a really diluted. Like, it sounds like it's going to be like really sweary and everything else, but like, is it actually too sweet beyond the surface? Will be my concern.
It's how I described it was it's High School Musical meets The Gifford, and is it too sweet? Not really. Not really. It's barely sweary, but it gets it. And apparently the director was a metalhead, so it's written from the perspective of someone in that scene. So it's not like an interpretation of what people think that the kind of metal world is. It's someone who's lived it themselves, and you can tell. I mean, it's got absolutely no one that you know other than the cameos, which I'm not going to say, obviously. The soundtrack is ridiculous. Soundtrack is superb. It may be rivaling Peacemaker for best soundtrack of the year.
Oh wow! Okay.
For what it is. But yeah, it's only hour and 37. Really, really, really surprisingly good film, Metal Lords on Netflix.
Super. Matt, what have you been watching?
So I watched the Jimmy Savile documentary. Yeah, really, really good. It was like I'd said in the Wolves Fancast group chat that it was a slow burner. And what I meant by that is like you get, the first episode is about the good he does with a dusting of sinisterness. Then the second episode is obviously then about the unraveling of how he ended up getting caught, and I say getting caught posthumously, whatever the word is. Yeah, it was really well done. It was really well done. To be fair, there was stuff in there like it was a massively archived footage documentary, which is absolutely fine. That I don't know how they got their Louis Theroux stuff in there. I don't know if it's like they only use a snippet of it, so they're able to, like whatever the law is around that, because they had Theroux's documentary in there, they had other other people in there. It was really well done though. It never felt like sensationalized though as a documentary. It didn't feel exploitative either. I think it was really it approached the subject matter really well. So I watched something that isn't new at all. I hadn't watched it for years. Got to be about 15 years or so. I watched The Truman Show. I'd been meaning to watch it, and me and Sam went away. We were charity shop hopping, which is a hobby of ours. I was just trying to find it on DVD anywhere to watch, like in the van on that evening. Couldn't find it. So when I got home, I booted up the Fire Stick and managed to find it. And I was like, oh, this film isn't like anywhere near as funny as I remember it to be. Not to say it was a bad film, but it really feels more with older eyes that it's more of just a satire on the media world as we know it, not like a comedy film. Whereas when I was younger, I used to think it was just an out and out comedy, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was excellent. Like, it gets really dark at points, but it was wonderful. Yeah, I really had a good time watching it. And I'm going to start, I think I'm going to start Mindhunter again. So I stopped like 5 episodes in, and I've got no idea why. Like, I've got no idea why. I put it on, and it was like, play episode 6, series 1. And I was like, oh, so I've watched 5 episodes of this. Like, I don't know why I stopped. So I'm going to start it again and hope it wasn't because it was terrible.
All reports say it's a really good series, so it's probably worth it. It's one I kept putting off for some reason. I think I watched the first episode, and for whatever reason, never picked it up again.
I wonder. Hold on, let's do this live because I'm around that as well. I watched the first 4 or 5. Let's see where it says. Let's have a look. Mindhunter.
I don't know if this was like maybe it was a part thing, like it was a 1-parter or 2 parts or something. Like,
yeah, 7. Episode 7 is where I left it. Season 1.
How bizarre.
Very strange. Yeah, I've got 17 minutes left of episode 1. No idea why. No idea why.
But it's good though. It's a thing.
It seemed fine. I don't remember hating it, but yeah, I don't know. Weird. So I've been watching. I watched Is It Cake, which I really enjoyed.
God in heaven, not you as well.
I like a baking show. I did enjoy
a
it.
Baking show, but God, how can you stomach the presenter?
See, I quite liked him. I thought the presenter was decent. He was very, very American style presenter, which, I mean, obviously it's an American show. So yeah, I thought it was good. Which then led me on to watching Baking Impossible, which was also fucking great. They were engineers and bakers, and they were baker-engineering or something. I don't fucking
I've
know.
seen it. I've seen
It was great.
That is better, to be fair.
Yeah.
Because that's closer to Bake Off.
Yeah. Well, I didn't realise that it was the guy who was the Northern Irish guy who seemed to be the one who sort of made it up. He was on the Bake Off. I didn't remember him at first, but seeing the picture now, it came to mind. I really enjoyed Baking Impossible. I thought that was a better show myself. The Bubble I watched, it was okay. I mean, I only really watched it because Pedro was in it. Had it have been about half an hour shorter, I think it'd been really good. But it hit a point, and I was like, I'm done now. Like I feel really like it's dragging it out badly. It was funny enough, but I think if they'd have ended it earlier, I'd have been much happier.
I think that says it all. That I watched that as well on the first day it came out, and I completely forgot about it.
Yeah, it just wasn't funny enough, and I feel like the extended time on it took away from what good was actually in there. I watched Human Resources, which is about the monster creatures from Big Mouth. So your hormone monster, the depression cat, and stuff like that. It's their work life. And it could just have ended up being a really silly monster mayhem comedy. But it ended up having like some really heartbreaking, touching moments. I mean, if you look on Twitter, if you type in Human Resources, it autofills to episode 9 because everybody's talking about episode 9. It's fucking devastating. Really well done. And if you're a fan of Big Mouth, I think you'll enjoy Human Resources. Sonic 2, Stu already mentioned, great fun. I mean, for them to have got away with it on the first film, because that should have been shit, and it was great. And really, the sequel should have been shit, but again, it was fantastic. I'm a little bit worried about the third film, but that includes spoilers as to why, so we'll leave that for another podcast, I think. Yeah. And I watched a film called The Cellar on Shudder purely because Elisha Cuthbert was in it. Or is it Alicia Cuthbert? I never know how you pronounce it. And she just doesn't look like her. Because all in my head, I'm picturing Kim Bauer from like 20 years ago. And obviously that's not who she is anymore. It was okay. It was standard fare, silly bollocks. I wouldn't recommend it though, I don't think. If there's something else you'd rather watch horror-wise, go for that. It wasn't good enough to waste an evening on, I don't think, sadly. So to our individual questions, Stu, you're up first, please.
Oh yeah, I forgot what I said then. Yeah, this came because when Matt even said, "Is there any context to this question?" and there's not really. More the fact that it was just one of these things where I was looking at kids' TV shows that have been remade and made shitly. Like you got Postman Pat's all. It's like now he's got helicopters and stuff, and it's all CG and it's not stop motion. They've done it with Inspector Gadget as well, but I thought, okay, I used to like Inspector Gadget really quite a lot, so I gave it a go, and I thought there's something quite troubling about this man because he's in charge of his niece, and yeah, how human is he really? Because in the film, he's just a head, I think. If he's a cyborg, is this acceptable and is it troubling? And why is no one talking about it?
Are we worried from like a Skynet point of view?
There's many reasons to be worried. Is he a deviant? Who knows? Because he's got got a deviant's coat on. Who knows what else he can extend?
Yeah, he absolutely does have a flasher coat on.
He does, yeah. He does seem like a bit of a diddler. Let's be brutal about it. Like, it is really strange that he... Like, because you'd mentioned this last week, I went and watched a couple episodes on YouTube because I haven't seen it since I was a child. I haven't seen the films either, so I don't know if he's got this weird relationship with a child in it as well. But it certainly is like quite worrying to watch that he seems to get himself into trouble, and the only way out of it is by her helping him off the trouble. And I don't get it. It's really bizarre. And like even from a completely innocent point of view, it doesn't seem to be a very good story of like grown-ups don't know what they're doing, so the kids have to help them out. It's a really bizarre show, and I don't know how it was as popular as it was back in the 80s. Maybe we just didn't realise because we were all too innocent at the time.
I mean, Matthew Broderick is Inspector Gadget for me. I never watched any like cartoon of Inspector Gadget or anything like that, and I know like there's been a reboot since, but I've never been that big a Broderick fan either. So Inspector
No.
Gadget like doesn't tick any boxes for me at all. Like I know you've got like all the technological stuff, and it could be quite fun, but it's never, you know. I think if you're looking to make an arrest in Hollywood, you could, I don't want to put us down the route of libel, but you could look no further. So, Stu, you might be onto something here, pal.
It's not right. There's something not right about the whole thing.
I didn't even know they'd remade this. I'm just looking at it now on IMDb. It looks like the most Windows Millennium Edition animation I have ever seen. It looks absolutely appalling. And it's only it's less than 10 years old. It's 2015. And Tara Strong was one of the voices. I love Tara Strong. Christ. Inspector Gadget 2026. I think we're getting a film in a few years' time as well. Oh, fucking hell. Interesting. My question's up next. Of everything that is currently available, what is the best order to watch Star Wars in? So you can just give me the films in whatever order. You can give me films and TV. Skip, whatever you want to do. Just how would you watch the Star Wars run, Stu?
This is really, really odd because my sister-in-law actually texted me about a month ago about this because her husband had never seen it. Again, baffling. And she said that she'd seen the original trilogy and Phantom Menace, and that's all she'd seen. So, obviously, spoilers. If you don't know who Darth Vader is, then I think you probably have to do it in release order. But I think with the way it is now and with the amount of stuff there is, it makes perfect sense to do it in numbered order: 1, 2, 3, Solo, Rogue One, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think he just, and that's the way I did it last time before 9 came out, and it made a lot of sense. They did, for however much they fucked up a lot of things in that series with the prequels and The Last Jedi, obviously. It does flow quite well when you binge it like that. If you want to throw Clone Wars and all that stuff in as well, then obviously you do it as and when it fits in the timeline. But yeah, I think nowadays, if you're watching it now, it makes a lot more sense just to do it in numbered order.
That's fair. Matt, how would you cut the show?
Yeah, thing is, I am a sucker for chronology, so I do like things to be just in the order. But I think, like, when the original trilogy, and I mean that original in our time, came out, there was no concept of this canon of 20 years later, do you know what I mean, or 30 years later, or anything else. So watching it in that order, like, does watching our, the New Hope trilogy, when it comes to that in relation to the films, does it feel dead weak in content in comparison to all of like the canon and everything else, all the in jokes, all the nostalgia, when you smack those films in the middle of a 9-film arc? Do you know what I mean? Just do they feel like the Rocky Fives of the piece because they're not fleshed out anymore or anything like that? I don't know. Like, I see nothing wrong in, like, oddly, in just the way it's all been released up to this point. Like, I think that's the way to watch it. The only thing I would consider is The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett in that bit of the chronological order, because with the whole Book of Boba Fett and the Pit of Sarlacc stuff, I had such a grin on my face seeing all of that stuff, and I think to have that world straight away would be really, really good. If I could have watched Jedi and then gone straight into the Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, I would have really enjoyed that. I think.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I think the only reason I didn't say that was because it's not finished yet.
True.
I think Rebels is over, so Rebels, you could count Rebels as for where that fits slightly a bit later on. But yeah, I think you could if you really wanted to, you could put the Jedi Fallen Order game in there after Clone Wars as well, if you wanted to go really deep into it. But again, that's not a finished story yet. I think that's really the problem with all this now, because it's never going to end.
Ongoing still, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's fair. The order I would go with Episode 4, so A New Hope. Then I'd go with Empire Strikes Back. I would then go back and watch Sith, so Episode 3. Then after 3, go to Rogue One. So you watch those two like they're a flashback of how we got to the point where we are, the rise of Vader. And we've just found out in the film before that he's Luke's father. I would completely ignore 1 and 2 because nothing of any relevance happens in either of those films. So what's the point? I would then watch Episode 6 and then just watch The Mandalorian. Because I don't feel that Episodes 7 and 9 are really good enough to make me want to sit through Episode 8, which is the best of those 3. So I think I'd just skip them, to be perfectly honest. And I think you can get the best story if you just condense it to that. Because everything that came in Episodes 1 and 2 were pointless and mostly irrelevant. And 7 to 9 didn't really add anything to an excellent story that was told. And as you say, Matt, I want to then do Mandalorian and Boba Fett just because that firstly ties directly into 6 and you get the Sarlacc pit stuff, which was fucking so cool to see.
Yeah,
and then I just carry on with Mandalorian, just ad infinitum, because we just want him on our TV as much as we can. So that's the route I would take.
What I'm loving about TikTok at the moment, my algorithm is a really strange things of Elden Ring, girls that belong on OnlyFans, and then memes. That's basically my TikTok at the moment, and the meme side of my algorithm is pretty much all just Obi-Wan flipping in and going, "Well, hello there," just over and over and over again.
I haven't seen that one. That's class.
It's become like meme worthy now, with him just going, "Well, hello there," and then like groups of like young blokes will pick up their mate like on its side and have their arms and legs flailing, and they'll go, "General Kenobi."
I've got a supplemental question then, because TikTok, I suppose, is a new form of media. Us men who are in their 30s to 40s at this point, should we really be as invested in watching TikTok as we are, Matt?
I think it's fine because throughout the ages we've always had TikTok. It's just not been called TikTok. You've had YouTube, you've had Vine, you've had other formats of like instant 10 to 30-second medias. That's just funny, and yeah, I've got no problem with it. I think when you start to become like I don't know, buying things like you know, like there's targeted adverts, and you like it's become like TikTok Shop and stuff like that now. That's when it becomes a bit of an issue in terms of like people buying things off them, and like if you start getting involved in the crazes off there, like I've seen like loads of girls at work have like the bottles that people are going mad for because it's gone viral on TikTok. I think as like grown ass men, when you get into that territory, it's a little bit more troubling.
Yeah.
But you know, what passes the time better than like a continuous loop of different 30-second silly videos? You know, there's nothing wrong with that.
For me, TikTok is the new toilet book. It's the new thing. I'm going for a shit. I'll just scroll through a few videos rather than read a few pages of like Cole Pilkington's books. They were perfect toilet books.
Yeah.
Because you could read a couple of pages, have a giggle, carry on with the rest of your day. That's what TikTok sort of feels like now. Stu, are you much of the TikTok world? I don't think we've really discussed it before.
The only time I go on there is when you all send me stuff, which is, I mean, Goldie sends me like 2 or 3 of them a day, and then you put some in, and then Ash finds some, and I wouldn't go through scrolling through just for the sake of it, because I mean the only time I've done that a few times is when I always seem to get like massive titted women jumping around, which is obviously never a bad thing. But well, I think it's one of these that it kind of has passed me by, that I don't. I know I've obviously got an account with it, but I'm never going to make a video. At this point, I've got had a few ideas, but I thought, just no, it's not going to happen, is it? No one wants to see. You don't want to go full Dazzling Dave. So I think
Oh God, I want to see these videos that you've got in the back of your mind.
no one needs to see what's in the back of my mind. But there's, and so that, what was it? Was it Vimeo? But no,
Yeah,
was
I know what you
Vimeo
mean.
one.
Yeah,
Vimeo was one, and Vine, and yeah.
It's they're all like a kind of the evolution of what used to be the send videos over Bluetooth in the early days of phones, where you'd find someone with their Bluetooth on and you'd send them something in the pub, and that was probably illegal. we all used to do it in the union and stuff, and you'd look at people opening it, and there would be someone like shitting all over people or whatever. It was a product of its time.
People still do that now, but you can call it airdropping, I think.
yeah.
Exactly.
And I don't mean the shitting; I mean the actual sending of the files.
Yeah, it's just another way of doing it, eh? So yeah, it is what it is. But it's, I think, even for me, I'm too old for that grave.
Fair enough. Matt, your question, please.
So I've just finished listening to From the Outhouse on Audible, which is Alan Partridge's podcast. Ironically, it's not a podcast; it's in a book format, which I think is part of the point, because he doesn't understand what a podcast is. But it's very, very, very funny. Like if you like Alan Partridge anyway, you're gonna love it. But if you don't like Alan Partridge, it's just like the ramblings of like an old man who's trying to produce a podcast. Basically, it's so funny though. Christ, producing and editing a podcast aside, like there's elements of that I find really funny, and there's elements of like why, like he asks for questions on Twitter and the responses he gets and stuff like that. It's excellent. It's really, really excellent. So if you can find it without having to spend your hard-earned money on it, go for it. It is worth an Audible. No, it's not even an Audible credit though, because if you're an Audible member, it's part of the Audible Plus, so you can just listen to it without spending a credit as well, which is even better. But to take me back to my question, if you could have any fictional character, release their own podcast, who would it be and why? Stu Hall.
I mean, this was my first thought was Borat, because because you've got to think there was a lot of, because I was thinking of like comedy characters like Van Wilder and stuff like this, but a lot of it's not going to translate to audio, is it? You need someone who works from a non-visual point of view, and obviously there's a lot of radio influence in Borat and Bruno and a lot of Sacha Baron Cohen's characters. So I think from that point of view, Borat and Bruno would be incredible. If you went down the other way and you had someone like a character from the past, like 20 years later, what they're doing now, if you're thinking what kind of character would have their own podcast and moaning about the glory days, it'd be Stifler, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That'll be fair. Andy, what about yourself?
See, I like a sort of a true crime kind of a podcast. So I like Serial for me. I loved it. It was brilliant. So I was thinking we could go with Deputy Dewey from Scream. And it could be from his point of view of them
at
trying to
at least Scream and not a scary movie.
Oh God, Jeff. No. Yeah, from the Scream universe. So yeah, we'll get David Arquette in to retell the story of the first, I think just the first 3 films. Don't need any more. I'd love that. I'd be properly engrossed in it. If we was going to do something comedy, I would probably want the guys from This Is Spinal Tap. I think would be great. Do a tour diary with them. I think would be fantastic. Yeah. And they've got like proper comedy chops anyway, so I think that Dave McKean and Christopher Guest would be perfect for that world in a legit sense as well.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You know, that's so weird because one of the characters in the Dexter reboot kind of it's a reboot. It carries on. Is obviously a podcaster in the kind of TV podcaster vein, not in the Christmas film version of a podcaster.
Yeah.
Melissa, but yeah, she's a true crime podcaster who's talks about actual things that have happened in the past, and obviously the Bay Harbor Butcher is one of the subjects on one of her podcasts, and obviously she's there with Dexter Morgan, and he's in it as well in the same building as her. So that's kind of exactly what you're talking about, Deputy Dewey, with his own story. It's worked into that already. They've already done this, actually.
Okay. Cool. Because I was going to say you could have like Ray Stantz from Ghostbusters. I thought that'd be quite cool. But then you did have podcast the kid who was in the last film, so you've already got that sort of thing. But those would be mine anyway. What were yours, Matt?
So it'd be a really short run, but I'd really like to see the self-help podcast of the dude.
Yeah.
From the Big Lebowski. Like, but you're right to really make an actual success of it. So not just a wish list, but actually a success of a podcast. You need more than just like a one film character, really, or at least people that come from the comedy world. So yeah, I'd have the dude definitely for sure. I think. Who would I have? Again, like I'd like to see like maybe like Simpsons characters as a podcast, like talking about like doing like a Talk is Jericho style thing with Kent Brockman, but with the characters of the Simpsons, like talking through it, like give us backstory about their careers in character, stuff like that. You know, I want to hear about what Snake has been banged up for over time, or how Monty Burns came into his fortune, you know, those kind of things. I think that, and then you've got comedic actors who can, you know, who would be doing this kind of stuff for a living anyway.
Yeah, that would be absolutely brilliant, actually. I'd properly be up for that. Superb. Okay, so we'll have a quick quiz and then we'll call it a day. The review this week that I found that we couldn't use, Captain Scribe said of Sinister, "It could have been good, but during the entire thing, my eyes hurt. I wasn't tired and the TV was the correct distance from me, but it continued to hurt my eyes, hence the 1-star review. Update, turns out I had conjunctivitis."
Nice.
Yeah. Right, so Stu, we'll start off with you, and you've got a 4-star review here. "This could have been a 5-star movie, yet they lose a star because Daffy Duck is underutilised." It's a 1996 film.
You'd think you'd go be Space Jam, then, don't you?
Yeah, Space Jam, that's the one. Matt, 2015 movie. After watching Shrek before this movie, it wasn't even comparable. I would recommend this movie for Rocky fans, but make sure you watch this before you watch Shrek. 2015. Good
Rocky
film, but not as good as Shrek, apparently.
Fucking hell.
Good for Rocky fans is the...
Wreck-It Ralph?
No, it's not. Stu?
2015.
Yeah.
Is this like a curveball because we're automatically thinking animated and it's just completely nothing to do with it? Rocky.
It's not. Surely not.
It probably is, Matt.
Go on. What was you going to say? Because I'm gone.
It's not. It's not Creed, is it?
It was great.
Fucking hell.
But you've got to make sure you've watched that before you watch Shrek, because
Of
no
course.
film will ever be any good again.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. Stu, took my 6 and 8-year-olds to see this. They were crying and scared all night. Now they think Iron Man is going to stab them with a sword when they're sleeping. 2016.
Iron Man with a sword. What was in 16? Oh, Age of Ultron.
Nope. Matt?
Run the quote by me again.
Took my 6 and 8-year-olds to see this. They were crying and scared all night. Now they think Iron Man is going to stab them with a sword when they are sleeping. So, superhero film, 2016. Scary-ish. For kids, anyway.
Oh, God. I'll pass. No idea.
It was Deadpool.
Oh, Deadpool. Bloody hell.
Matt, your question. It's hard to believe that a hotel of this size in Colorado would close in the winter. Think of all the skiing business. 1980.
The Shining.
It's The Shining, yeah. Stu. Dark and disturbing. I watched this with my 8-year-old granddaughter. It started out hopeful that it was going to be good, then it kept getting darker, and then the nude animals entered the movie. 2016 as well. Nude animals. This is a film you like as well.
That don't narrow it down, does it?
No, not really.
Nude Animals 2016. God knows. Pass.
Any clue, Matt?
It's not the Jungle Book.
No, it's not. I nearly did the Jungle Book one. It's actually Zootopia.
Fuck. Too obvious.
Zootopia gets nasty towards the end.
It does, but I mean, I wouldn't say it was dark and disturbing, to be honest.
Oh, you know that bit when they figure it out and then they're in their cages. That, I mean, I remember being in the cinema. Well, it would have been Ethan at the time, and he was only 4 or 5, and he was looking over like, I don't like this.
Bless him. Matt for the win. This film is too unrealistic. There is no evidence that dinosaurs existed. There may be some bones, but they are easy enough to fake. 2015.
Oh, so it's presumably it's Jurassic Park Fallen Kingdom.
It's not Fallen Kingdom. Stu?
That's a sequel, isn't it?
What's it called?
Jurassic World.
It's Jurassic World. Stu steals it at the death.
Snatched defeat from the jaws of victory.
He did.
You know what? I saw a great take on Twitter at the weekend that Jurassic Park is someone's Twilight, that they love it that much.
Oh, God. I suppose, it would be for some, but...
But I thought about it, I thought, well, actually, since I've never seen Twilight, and I'm going to try and get away with this for as long as possible. I went to see if we could book Dominion today. Couldn't do it. Not yet. But I'll be there day one. I love them films. Apart from even The Lost World is not as bad as you remember it. It's not good, but it's not as bad as you remember it. And even the third with William H. Macy, they're just...
I don't think I've seen any of the original sequels. I wasn't a massive fan of the original anyway, to be honest, so that never bothered me.
It's ridiculous.
It was okay, but I didn't love it. I've never really been a massive Spielberg fan generally. The first one of the new run was fine. The second one wasn't. Like like Matt said earlier, this is something I'll probably wait a few weeks until there's nobody in the audience and then go and see it. It's not high on my list personally. Is it a day oneer for you then, Matt?
It's a day oneer. It's an unlimited screening. For me, I'm hella looking forward to it.
I mean, to be fair, it's just an excuse to look at Bryce Dallas Howard, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Ooh-wee. Yeah, it is.
he's so soulless. He don't even like dinosaurs. And this is the kind of person we're dealing with here.
No, I do like dinosaurs. I just didn't really care for Jurassic Park. In fairness, I think if I watched it now, I'd probably enjoy it more. But, like, what was it? 93 was it, the original?
Yeah.
10-year-old me didn't really give a shit, to be honest. So, yeah.
10-year-old me was crying. I couldn't wait to go. And you know what? I bought the 3D Blu-ray of the first one It is ridiculous how good that film is. How well, obviously they've had to touch it up for the 3D aspect of it, but it could easily pass as a modern day film. Easily.
You know, I might have to re-add it to my watch list just because it's been so long. Just to give it another chance because it might be something that I do really like. Then that just wasn't it. Yeah,
I'm gonna do it one a week now because then it'll kind of build up to when the last one comes out. So we've got plenty of time.
Yeah, I think I'll join you on that. I'm making a note of it now to add it to my list. Yeah, I think that's a decent idea there. Right, okay. So that's this one done. Next week we'll be doing a picture pod, which is going to be The Trust from 2016, which is Elijah Wood starring alongside Nicholas, both with the most amazing moustaches you've ever seen. It looks like Trent Seven and Tyler Bate reincarnated. So double check what's going on justwatch.com to find out where it's streaming near you. Please make sure you've got us on whatever podcatcher you listen to and that you're following us on the socials at CageFightingPod. Any email, so if you've got any questions that you need answering, or if you've got an idea for a quiz that we can do at the end of the show, send them our way to cagefightingpod@gmail.com. And for this week, Matt, would you like to say goodbye?
Take it easy, everybody. Look after yourselves, stay safe, and vigorously apply suntan lotion if going out into the sun.
Stu, would you like to say goodbye?
Life will find a way. Goodbye.
It's goodbye from me, and remember, be excellent to each other.